Hello and welcome to FPSKivotos. I'm your host Bridge, and let's get started. Getting straight into it, on this week's episode, we're going to talk about everyone's favorite smut reading student. And of course, I'm talking about Koharu. Koharu is actually one of my favorite characters, so it's really awesome to actually have her gun, ready to go and finished. As always, we're going to talk about the similarities and differences between my rifle and the in-game one, talk about her battle animations, and show you guys firing footage. And getting straight into it, we got Koharu's rifle of choice, Black Justice, or as many people know, the Pattern 14 Enfield. It is chambered in 303 British and was used back during World War I and subsequent wars after that. One of the really interesting things about this rifle, or at least this lineage of rifle, it's very similar to a certain Springfield rifle. It's kind of interesting that the US basically kind of stole this design to make into their own rifle, but honestly, it's a really good rifle to steal off of. But as always, let's go straight into the similarities, and as you can see, I think I did a fantastic job on this rifle. This is probably one of my best painted bolt action rifles to date, and probably my most accurate one. As always, we're going to start from the back and then move all the way up to the front. As you can see here on the stock, we have the pink rubber band, and one of the big differences off the bat is the size of the rubber band. I couldn't really find like larger, thicker pink rubber bands in particular that would fit and match the color, so I had to kind of just go with a smaller, much smaller, just standard rubber band. As you can see on the picture of her gun, it's a little bit, it's quite thick, and I don't know how exactly I would do that. I thought about painting, like, if you remember Haruka's shotgun, I used wider, heavy-dutier rubber bands. I tried to paint those. They didn't really work out too well, so I decided just to go with the shorter rubber band. Moving up to the sights, as you can see, the biggest addition is the wings, and this was quite the engineering, craftsmanship feat of mine. So essentially what I did for this is that I took a screenshot of Koharu's rifle and I blew up the image as wide as I can, and I separated the wing part of it because I couldn't really find anybody that had already done this, and I scaled it to size, and I used a whole bunch of printer paper to try to get the scale right. So I'd print out paper of the wing and cut it to size and see if it would actually fit properly onto the sight picture itself, because the base version of this rifle already has kind of its own wings. They're just not as exaggerated as Koharu's is in here. And as you can see right here, this is the design that I ended up going with. This was the perfect size to fit flush with the sight picture there, and honestly I think it turned out great. And essentially what I did is I printed this out, cut this out, put it on a piece of cardboard, traced it on a piece of cardboard, and then cut it out as precisely as I could, sanded it, painted it, and 3M command stripped it onto the gun. I don't know if you can see, you might be able to see it from this side. You can kind of see the white up on the left wing there. Yeah, I literally just used 3M command strips, cut them to size, stuck them onto the gun, and then stuck the cardboard onto it. And honestly, it got through a 50+ rounds, so they work out pretty good. They're not intrusive because they're just on the wings themselves, but I'm just really glad I was able to get this very important detail of her rifle on the recreation of it. Moving up a little bit more, as you can see right here, this part of the upper receiver is painted this kind of like, it's like a brownish color. Hers is darker than this, and I couldn't really find something that would match that well enough, so I decided to go with this color in particular. It gets the same point across, but it's just not exactly the right color. Moving up further, we have the ring right here that holds, the upper and lower, these two wood pieces together, as well as the one all the way up in the front, and the front sight all being the nice bright pink color, which looks white right now because of my lighting. Honestly, painting the front sight pink was really helpful when actually looking, because you're looking down a black rear sight into a bright pink front sight. You're not really gonna miss it. And this thing shot very accurately, as you're probably seeing in the firing footage, whenever I'm actually shooting that steel or even the clays on the ground. I'm just bang, bang, bang. If I'm actually, you know, focusing on trying to shoot those things. This thing is pretty accurate considering it's over a century old now, which is wild to say. I hope you guys do enjoy the new style of firing footage where I have it like clamped on the front and like a not really first person, but like the camera facing back towards me. I'm gonna try that more often. I want to see if I can get that to be more stabilized because it's a little wobbly, and you can kind of see on the gun that I've kind of chipped off the paint just a little bit because of the clamping system that, you know, goes into that. And speaking on like the top clamped part, on her in-game rifle, it's a little bit of a different color. So it's kind of like two-toned, and I wasn't really sure how I was gonna pull that off without it making like the bottom part of the receiver mostly gray. I didn't think that looked good, so I just decided to go with, you know, mostly black. It's like a blackish gray. You can't really see the gray too much on it, other than, you know, if you were in person with me. So even though it's not exactly right to hers, I think just the all black just looks better. And as for the last little detail, of course, we have the Koharu charm. It was a nice little alternative trying to get, you know, something that looks similar to the slime that she has, and she held up great. So an acrylic that is good under firearm use. Would you look at that? I like how I always go on to the section of similarities and then differences, but then I talk about the similarities and I talk about the differences at the exact same time. Anyway, beyond that, that's basically it for this rifle. I think I did a really good job at, you know, making it look as good. Oh, I fucking forgot, sorry. There are the stickers. The only sticker that's on her gun is the Justice sticker here, and a good friend of mine managed to recreate them for me as best he could to match like the font, because the font was kind of an interesting one to get right, and it turned out great. I kind of wish I had a better way of like allowing it to not look like it's a sticker. Like you can tell it's glossy, right? It glows a little bit, and it's like you can tell that it's something that's kind of put on, laminated on the rifle rather than just like a part of it. I wish I could do something better than that, but for now, it works out pretty good. But yeah, like I said, this rifle turned out fantastic and it shoots great, and I just love bolt actions that just are super smooth to operate. The only thing that was like kind of an issue was the wings do kind of hinder how you use the bolt a little bit. As you can probably see on this side of the rifle, obviously the action side, let me lock it open here real quick. Oh, safety's on. It touches the wing a decent amount, and it's kind of, if you don't want to smack the wing, you kind of have to be a little bit deliberate with how you rack it. And you can kind of see it on the back here on the right wing. It is, you know, chipped a little bit, but it is just cardboard. So at the end of the day, if I really wanted to put a new one on there, I could just, you know, cut out a piece of cardboard and do the process all over again. But with all that out of the way, let's move on to the battle animations. If you guys have been enjoying this episode so far, please make sure to read smut. And make sure to hit the like, comment, subscribe button, and hit the notification bell to know when I upload every single time. Koharu has the privilege of being one of the many characters to have two playable characters. And of course, I'm talking about the normal outfit and the swimsuit outfit. And their animations are a little bit different because obviously Koharu was one of the launch characters, and Swimsuit Koharu came out probably like a couple years, like 2-3 years after. And they did actually update the animations of the swimsuit one versus the normal version. But first, we're going to talk about the normal version. When it comes to the reload animations, she actually only has one. I don't believe she has one that it's standing. At least I couldn't get one of her just standing. She was actually shooting in a crouch position. I thought that was interesting because it lets her, you know, mitigate the recoil more, even though it doesn't have that much recoil as we've seen from my firing footage. But I did have my buddy shoot in this position to, you know, replicate what she was doing. But as for the reload animation, all she does is open the bolt back, looks at it for a second, and closes it. She doesn't put any ammo in it. She just magically has more ammo when she closes it and starts shooting 5 more rounds, which is really interesting. The quote-unquote magazine size is accurate, where it is 5 rounds in the internal magazine. You could technically do 5+1 if you push down the lever and put a new round into the actual chamber itself and close it up. So you could have 5+1, but for the most part, no one really does that. So it has 5 rounds in the internal box mag. And of course, we cannot talk about Koharu without talking about and showing off her EX skill. the Holy Hand Grenade. I kind of wish I had one myself so I could use it for a skit, but getting one of those 3D printed would have been a chore. But as you can see, she rummages through her bags, finds her smut, puts it back into the bag, embarrassed, grabs out a Holy Hand Grenade, and tosses it out to do massive damage. It does massive damage against explosive enemies, and it also heals your allies if you want to do that too. Which I think is very interesting for a grenade, but you know, it is what it is. I do wonder if it's like holy explosive or holy water. I'm not entirely sure. It's a Holy Hand Grenade, so what does that exactly entail? I'm not entirely sure. But moving right over to the swimsuit outfit, this is where they updated their animations a bit, because like I mentioned, it's been a couple years since the original version of her came out, and so they could update the animations just a little bit. Swimsuit Koharu actually has two different style of animations, one for standing and one for crouching, and she also has a standing shooting pose. Her standing pose isn't the most stable, but I mean, she's perfectly fine. When it comes to the real animation, she opens up the bolt and actually puts in at least 1 to 2 rounds into the internal magazine and closes it up and starts shooting again to shoot 5 more. It's either that or she throws in a stripper clip. They don't animate stripper clips in this game, or fucking LNG magazines for that matter, so I'm not really sure exactly what she's doing, but I'm assuming she's throwing in a stripper clip, pushing all the rounds in and closing it up to get back out into action as quickly as she can. And she does the exact same thing on the crouch animation. So thankfully they actually fix it where instead of just opening it and closing it, she actually goes out of her way to put rounds into the internal magazine. I think it's very impressive that she just no-looks it. Like for me and my friends, we did like physically look at the internal magazine to put in the rounds. But her, she just goes into her bag, in, close, whatever. You know, she's really quick with it and does not seem to care. She seems like she's very proficient with a rifle, but it is really interesting that both the standing and the crouched animation does have an alternate reload where when she grabs into her bag, she finds her smut, puts it away, embarrassed, and throws in the bullets into the magazine. I think that's a cute little detail. And of course, we have to talk about her EX skill. She once again is about to reach smut, gets really embarrassed, and starts throwing water balloons that do massive amount of damage. Her facial expressions and just the sounds that she makes and everything is it's so adorable, and I understand why so many people do and like her as a character, because I do as well. But with all that out of the way, let's move on to the conclusion. This episode was an absolute blast to make. 303 British is honestly a pretty soft shooting ammo. I believe, if I remember correctly, Iori's rifle, at least my version of it, is 7mm Mauser, and that was also pretty light in the recoil. And I love bolt action rifles that just have a really smooth action. All the ones that I've done videos for, part of my collection, have been really solid. Other than maybe the Mosin. I think the Mosin was probably the least, smooth to operate. They've all been an absolute blast. I think I've done, what, 5 or 6 bolt action rifles? I'm just getting them as quickly as I possibly can to make these videos, and it's been a blast. And at the time of this recording, we have the Wild Hunt girls, and one of the girls, Eri, I believe is how you pronounce her name, has the Carcano, which is really cool. I've always wanted the Carcano. They're really interesting rifles, and it was also used to assassinate JFK. So got some history to it, but those are pretty cool rifles, and I'm really excited to get that and make her gun, because her gun is actually not too hard to get the design of. It's just kind of red and have some other detailing on it. I think I can get that one done fairly quickly as long as I can get a Carcano. Surprisingly, they're not super expensive. They are pretty common to find in like surplus places. But beyond that, this one was fantastic to make, and I'm really happy with being able to get this rifle. It was actually in fairly good condition. The upper part, which is like right here, was actually a different piece of wood, so it wasn't all original, so I wasn't too worried about painting it, obviously. You know me, painting old guns and all that stuff like that. Some people don't like it, right? I understand, but these are my guns, and I do enjoy making these videos. That's the whole point of making these videos, is that I paint these guns to look like the character's guns. And I really do think I did black justice. But with all that out of the way, thank you guys so much for supporting me. Thank you guys so much for watching. It means the absolute world to me, as always. I know the uploading has been kind of sporadic at the moment. I'm just getting still trying to get things paid off and whatnot, and getting more guns paid off as well. But in due time, more videos will be coming out. So please stay tuned. But with all that out of the way, I've been your host, Bridge, and I'll see you guys in the next one.